Good evening. A six-alarm fire that ravaged a new six-story building on Dorchester Avenue this summer was caused by an exhaust pipe that was improperly installed. That's the conclusion of the Boston Fire Department investigation that was made public yesterday. The city's fire chief, Joe Finn, said that there were other contributing factors that led to the fire spreading across the upper floor and the roof of the Treadmark building. Finn said that workers who were testing a generator in the building's basement noticed an odor of smoke but did not contact the fire department for more than an hour. Finn said that delay in bringing the firefighters in made a bad situation that much worse. Another factor, the building's sprinkler system was not turned on at the time. It was not required to be active since the building was not yet occupied with residents. But the city's top inspector, William Christopher, has said that the Walsh administration will be reviewing the aftermath of the Treadmark fire and could issue new guidelines for construction protocols. The upper section of the building, which was most impacted by the fire, is now being deconstructed so that a more complete inspection of the building can be conducted. The building's owner, Trinity Financial Inc., has pledged to rebuild, but it's not yet clear how long that might take. The latest design plans for a new and improved Morrissey Boulevard have generated a wide range of public comments. More than 50 people submitted feedback to the state's Department of Conservation and Recreation, the DCR, and that came after a presentation of their latest plans last month. The agency envisions a parkway bordered by biking and walking paths. Speed limits on Morrissey would be lowered to 35 from 40 miles per hour, and there would be new traffic signals at some of the most chaotic portions of the roadway. Most controversially, travel lanes would drop down from 3 to 2 to allow more room for pedestrians and bicyclists on certain parts of the route. One proposed change is not sitting well. Part of the current plan would eliminate the U-turn at the Dunkin' Donuts near Freeport Street, and that's one that's heavily used by Dorchester people moving around between Port Norfolk and Neponset, for instance. The project itself is expected to cost about $30 million. That's money that has not yet been budgeted by the state. DCR officials do plan to host another public meeting in late summer or early fall to move this design project to 75%. A proposal to build a new condo and hotel development on the Port Norfolk Peninsula is getting aired publicly through meetings this month and next month. City Point Capital, the developer, they plan to raise the Marine Max Rousseau Marine site at 24 Erickson Street and build up a 150 condo building and 25-room boutique hotel. Now, this project would also feature a 4,000 square foot restaurants, a parking garage for 185 vehicles, and boat storage facilities that could handle about 75 boats. The site includes about 3.6 acres of developed land and about 4 acres of water-related uses, including that marina. Now, the city's BPDA will sponsor a public meeting to discuss this project with the neighborhood. It's set for Wednesday, August 9th at the Port Norfolk Yacht Club. That meeting starts at 6 o'clock in the evening. Community comment on this project is going to be taken from the BPDA right through September. A new Mexican-themed eatery has opened this week in Lower Mills. Yellow Door Taqueria at the corner of Dorchester Ave and Washington Street is a cozy 50-seat taco and tequila bar. It's located in what was once the Dark Horse Antiques, and they've relocated around the corner onto Washington Street. The Yellow Door is the latest joint venture of Brian O'Donnell and Ken Casey, who you may know as the Dropkick Murphys frontman. They've teamed up to buy and reinvent the Lower Mills Tavern, which is a popular dining and drinking destination right around the corner. And Tanya Nyack, the acclaimed interior designer often featured on HGTV, is the other key partner. The offerings at Yellow Door include, of course, tacos of all kinds of brands, salads, homemade guacamole, chips, and daily made corn tortilla. Another innovation of this place, it's open until 11 o'clock, the kitchen, and that's a rarity in Dorchester, as many of us know. Yellow Door Taqueria, located at 2297 Dorchester Ave. That's the news this week from Dorchester. I'm Bill Forry of The Reporter for Neighborhood Network News.
So going back up the avenue across from Ashmont to the Treadmark building, this is another example of we've seen recently of these multi-story buildings. The upper floors are wood frame, and we've seen, just as we saw a few weeks later in Waltham, they burn. This is a problem.
It is a problem, especially when the fire commissioner for Boston says It's a very serious problem, and he considers it a very dangerous building, is what he said to reporters. Now, he said that meaning in its current form the day it burned, right? He didn't mean it in terms of if it was occupied, because if it was occupied with permitting, there would have been a sprinkler system active, fire suppression within the building, which would then not make it a very dangerous building, right? So the issue really here is about what happened to cause this fire, this specific incident. We don't know what happened in Waltham. Boston Fire thinks it knows what happened in Dorchester, that it was a faulty design of the exhaust system from the basement up to the roof, that the roof caught on fire because it was too close, the exhaust pipe was too close to the wood and the flammable construction materials, and then that it wasn't really dealt with immediately.
Yeah, a lag of more than 1 hour. Somebody knew something was wrong, but they didn't bother to call.
According to the Boston Fire Commissioner, workers on site noticed that there was an odor, noticed that there was some kind of hazy, smoke or whatever it was, and evidently tried to ferret it out on their own. His argument, and I think common sense would say, call 911. Get some experts out there. Finn said that they have the kind of infrared equipment firefighters do that would have detected where exactly this was burning and been able to get on it quickly. The other piece, of course, had the sprinkler system been turned on, which it was not required to be turned on, but it could have been, it probably would have knocked this down much quicker. Instead, it was a 16-hour burn, really a very disruptive event, of course, for the surrounding neighborhood and for this project, which is kind of a big setback in that neighborhood.
You know, a lot of people, whenever they see a tall building, they think this is all luxury, but actually this is unusual because this is a building that had a lot of affordable units that were planned.
It did. It was a mix of incomes in this building. 20 condominiums on the top 2 floors, which were higher end, but in the middle floors, between the ground level and up, affordable rental units, which is what the neighborhood wanted and asked for, and that's what Trinity, the development team, came up with. And that's really what the city was encouraging as well. There were city and state subsidies for this project. The intent was to put online more affordable housing and more market rate housing as well in a neighborhood that's really clamoring for it. And that's really part of the deep disappointment that's around the Ashmont community, because this project is really emblematic of the sort of housing people do want to see, and to lose it, at least for the moment, is a big setback.
This has been a news, and we're taking a deeper dive into the Dorchester Report with Bill Forry. Bill, I want to turn to Morrissey Boulevard, because one of the things that we're getting to deal with more and more often, unfortunately, is the rising sea level, those times when the boulevard has to be closed. Mm-hmm. Is that figuring in some way into this reconstruction?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's part of the impetus behind doing this in the first place, is that DCR and their design team want to elevate the roadway along the most vulnerable stretch, which people will probably know is along Malibu Beach, Savin Hill Beach, where the drawbridge is, the Beads Bridge. That's an area that is frequently flooded out when there's a high tide. It's not really triggered by rain events necessarily, although that can happen too. This is about the tides, and the roadway will be elevated, and there'll also be some degree of mitigation along the beach area to help protect the roadway more. And so that's part of it. But this is also about transforming what is now somewhat of a treacherous stretch, especially for bicyclists, pedestrians, people in vehicles as well, to make it more of a parkway, traffic calming measures along the route, and importantly to this design at the moment, adding a bike lane, dedicated bike lane for travel along Morrissey from Neponset Circle all the way to Kosciuszko Circle.
Now, I know this is currently a weak link for people on bikes, but this isn't just for scenic drives by the water. This could be for a lot of commuters going to, let's say, the Columbia Point Peninsula.
Yeah, this is obviously a vital artery from the south and to the south for the city. This is not just a neighborhood road. I mean, this is a metropolitan, a key link to the metropolitan system, and so it's being. People's reaction, as I mentioned in my report, it varies, but there's quite a few people who think it's insane to drop a lane off of Morrissey, because they just envision this traffic situation getting that much worse. Engineers, however, push back and say, no, actually this could make it better. It'll allow for safer and more orderly passage, and it'll encourage people. A lot of folks now, Chris, as you may know, are using Dorchester Ave as their artery on bikes to get into the city, and that's hazardous too. The idea of a dedicated bike lane along the coast that would link up also with the Neponset Greenway, for instance, that is a great and safe transit route now. That's very attractive to a lot of folks, whether they're on a bike or not.
Now, there's one feature of the boulevard that a lot of people don't notice very much, but I've tried it a few times over the years, and that's the place where you can practically make a U-turn near, was it Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah, and that is maybe the most contentious issue at the moment, because people do not want that U-turn to be eliminated. Engineers see it as a hazard. They see it as a...
There's been a serious accident near there, hasn't there?
There have been, but there's also... there's only one other place that you can do a U-turn, and that's even more treacherous. And they would keep that intact in this plan. It's down by the off-ramp or the on-ramp to the expressway. And people who live in Neponset, people who live in Port Norfolk, don't want to see that U-turn lost at the Dunkin' Donuts. Not just because they like Dunkin' Donuts. It's not about the business so much as it is their daily route to get in and out of their neighborhood. And there's been a lot of pushback against that.
So now that there's planning for more housing in Port Norfolk,
Yeah.
I guess more people will have to stay on the boulevard, I guess drive all the way through Neponset Circle.
Yeah, a lot of traffic, as it's designed now, would be pushed further to make a route into the city, would have to circle back through the Neponset Circle, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. To add more congestion, Neponset Circle is already a major choke point.
One other thing that the reporter has been covering recently, the city had some new figures on the cost of housing. We know that there are more units being built, but at least as far as Dorchester, how does it look between supply, demand, and price?
Well, the Walsh administration's aim all along here in the mayor's housing plan that he announced in his first year in office was to build 53,000 new units of housing. They're more than halfway towards that goal already, and what their claim is that it's already, we're seeing some mitigation in the housing stock that has existed, the older housing stock. So the new units that are being built are taking some of the pressure off rents. So we're seeing some evening of rents in neighborhoods, especially Fenway, other parts of the downtown core, and in Dorchester, that there was a slight decrease in the median rent as they calculated it last year in the older housing stock. So these are like the three-deckers, the signature three-deckers that we call home in Dorchester. Some of that older stock, the rents are depressed a bit more. The new units, of course, are much more expensive, and the argument is we're moving more affluent people into these newer units, and that's going to make it easier for everyone else.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bill Forry from the Dorchester Reporter.